Welcome to Music She Missed, the podcast where I try to get my best friend caught up in some of the most popular songs and artists that impact our lives. I'm Allison.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I missed all the music.
Hey, Rachel. Welcome to Season 5?
Wow, I can't believe we've gotten this far.
Me neither. I thought you were going to give up, after Nirvana.
Oh my gosh, I hated Nirvana. That was a sad week.
But this is a happy week. Well, okay. So we are in the middle of a global pandemic, recording our podcast using a bunch of technology. So audience, please forgive us if there are some little technical difficulties. So for people that are new to the podcast, Rachel, every week I pick a different musician or artist for you to listen to. Chances are you don't know anything about them. You've never heard of them before. Mm-mm. And then you come back and report, your findings, your discoveries on what everybody else pretty much already knows. But the other fun thing about the podcast is before I reveal the artist and guest every week, I like to do a little get to know you kind of tangentially related topical discussion. But my question for you this time is, have you ever learned a phrase in another language from an unusual method? So whether or not you studied that language in school, maybe you picked it up in a TV episode or a movie or a song, though for you that'd be unlikely, or any type of creative way. Like for me, being a big Arrested Development fan, I know that the way you say hello in Korean is Annyang. Annyang. So,
Annyang. You named your cat after the show.
Well, yeah, no, I'm a big fan, but because I watched it a lot, that word, if I were to hear people speaking Korean, and I heard that word, I'd be like, oh, I know what that means because I learned it in that show. So I want to know if you have a word or a phrase that you have learned that way in another language.
I know some.
Ooh, were you about to say bad words?
Yeah, I was.
Which bad words did you learn, and in what language, and how?
I know some German ones.
You lived in Germany, so that's kind of cheating.
I like the Annyang part, though.
Well.
So what's up with this question that works with the next artist? What?
Okay, so I studied French in high school, not Spanish, but I know how to say I'm a loser in Spanish because of this artist.
I know a couple things in Spanish from Sesame Street.
Big Bird is not this artist. Soy un perdedor. Does that help?
No.
Okay.
What?
Well, then maybe we should do the big reveal. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, let's do it.
Drum roll.
Ready?
Beck.
Beck?
Yeah.
Who the heck is Beck?
So, he's a super famous musician.
Famous? What?
He's super famous. He's been playing music for 20 years. He's won Grammys.
I really missed it.
He has 11 albums.
I'm such a loser. No,
so why don't you kill me?
What? Oh, really? Is that the song?
You just said I'm okay. So now you have to listen to Beck because you are a loser. Okay. You will connect with him. And our special guest that will be with us is going to be my comedy buddy, Decker.
Oh, fun!
You met him at my birthday.
Yes, he's cool. I like him.
Yeah. Well, he's super excited to share this really awesome musician with you.
So it's just one guy, and his name is Beck.
Yes.
And so he doesn't have a last name.
Well, he does. Oh. I mean, he was born with a last name. I'm going to let Decker answer all your questions about Beck after your homework, which is
1 week of listening 1 hour every single day, and then we come back and we get to talk about it.
Before we do that, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you rank your current knowledge of Beck at a straight up 1?
I would say maybe a 0.
That's not a choice.
All right, number 1.
Okay. All right, Rachel. Well, this is an artist I really like, and I'm super excited for you to spend the week listening to Beck.
That's awesome. Let's do it.
All right, audience, I hope that you'll listen to the playlist along with Rachel by searching for Spotify /user music she missed. And Rachel, I'll see you next week. And audience, will be back with you in just a moment. Welcome back. Rachel, you spent the last week listening to Beck. But before we talk about it, let's welcome our first guest host of season 5, my friend Decker.
Hi. Hi, Allie. Hi,
Decker.
Rachel.
Awesome.
I had a great time rocking out to this playlist, but you would have probably suspected that. Rachel, what did you think?
It was a very interesting week where there was some songs that I actually was surprised to like. And then some songs that I wanted to call up the artist or band or whoever I was listening to and kind of say, hey, I want to critique a few things and change a few things if you wanted my opinion, which I doubt he does. And then some of the stuff which it really took a lot of willpower for me to not mute or skip the song.
Yeah, no skipping allowed.
Nope.
I know, so sad, but sometimes good.
So that's interesting. You kind of had a mixed bag. Well, it's not surprising that you had a mixed bag because Beck has been making music a long time in a variety of genres, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
In fact, Decker, you just want to jump in and give me your correction now?
Yes. So I have a correction to make. In the opening, you said Beck had 11 albums. He has 14.
14. Okay, so I did a Google search after you were like, I'm going to correct you. And Google even told me 13. So I am confused. But, the more the music, the better.
Yes. So two of them were released before Mellow Gold, and they were released on independent labels, and nobody heard them. Like, they printed like 2,000 copies.
If you print an album before Mellow Gold, doesn't make a sound. And nobody hears it. Well, I screwed up that joke.
Did the tree fall down?
You know what I'm saying. Okay, so 2 of these 14, I'm forgiven. What's the other one? What did I forget?
I'm guessing you probably forgot One Foot in the Grave, which was released after Mellow Gold, but recorded before, and is really Beck's. We may be getting ahead of the discussion on style here, but it is Beck's most folky album.
Oh, okay.
Largely acoustic, and he does some covers of some like Carter Family classics.
Which song was that?
That was not on your list.
Yeah, none of this is on the playlist. So hopefully, therefore, I'm getting a pass.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, Rachel, why don't we jump in? You had never heard Beck before.
No, I never heard Beck, let alone even knew that they existed. I am referring to Beck as they, him, not so much her, because I'm thinking it's a guy.
It is a guy.
Is it a band or is it a man? What is this?
Beck is a single person.
Oh, you're kind of surprising me on that one.
Yeah.
It kind of sounded like, as I was listening, maybe there was another voice, not in the same song, but I don't know.
So, one of the things Beck does a lot of, is sample himself.
What?
So,
do you know that word, Rachel? Sample?
In music terms?
Yes.
I know.
You know, free samples, right?
Let's go.
Okay.
What are you talking about? What? Sampling. What?
So, sampling is like when you take a sound piece or a sound clip and then you layer it and play it back.
Right.
So basically it's taking any piece, a lot of times even from other songs, right? And looping it or putting it in the song and using that as like a foundation, like build on top of it. A lot of hip hop artists do this. I mean, it's not exclusive to that at all, but for example, in the song, Loser, the little guitar slide, right? Being looped like continuously.
Oh.
Okay. I'm hoping that's a sample.
That is.
I'm pretty sure it is. Okay.
Okay.
You know, he still comes back to it. See, Beck is very hard to pigeonhole into a style.
I noticed that.
So he kind of has, he has a pretty big toolkit that he pulls from. So Beck Hansen, he does have a last name, was born Beck David Campbell. He is not related to, I'm guessing, anyone you are going to say.
Bop people.
Nope.
Boys.
Nope.
Yeah,
Hansen.
Okay.
Nope. Hansen is actually his mother's name. His mother was B.B. Hansen, and she was, fun fact, very active in the Andy Warhol factory scene.
Ooh, art.
60s, yeah. And his father is a musical arranger.
Cool.
And
so definitely coming from an artistic, creative.
Now I see that in his music.
So yeah, definitely coming from an artistic family. He grew up in a predominantly Latin district of LA.
I thought it was Europe.
Nope.
You thought it was Europe?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, when there were some of those instruments that I couldn't recognize, I didn't know if that was like techno, and the European techno, might I add. So I didn't know.
Oh, I see. You associate synthesized music with Europe?
Mostly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'm not going to even try.
No, continue with your impression of European, like, techno pop. I would love to hear it.
You were saying LA? What time?
Yeah, grew up in LA. He actually, he dropped out of school in the 9th grade.
Wow, that's early.
When he was 17, he was at a friend's house and he picked up a record of a guy named Mississippi John Hurt, who is a old Delta blues folk singer.
Yeah, Rachel's shaking her head because we haven't spent a lot of, I mean, even just like clarifying types of blues at this point is.
So Delta blues refers to a type of blues from the South. You know, a lot of like slide guitar picking.
Is that like more B.B. King?
Monkey. Not B.B. King.
Because he's more trumpet.
That's the closest thing. That is the closest thing she knows.
But it is.
So let's go with yes.
Yeah.
For now.
So he fell in love with this old style of folk singing and later branched out into other folk acts like Woody Guthrie, Lead Belly.
This is Rachel's deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Look. So why don't we jump to his hit, his breakout?
Yeah. So
wait. Let me guess which one out of them all it is. Sexx Laws?
Nope.
Where It's At?
Close.
Okay,
no. All right.
Now I'm just naming out the
Do you remember how I put the songs in chronological order?
Huh?
You know how, like, I always put the songs in chronological order for you?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Is it the first one?
It is.
It is.
Loser.
So Loser let's talk about Loser.
Okay.
Because this one, Beck kind of recorded it on a whim. Did not really think there was anything to it. After spending a time in New York, he kind of came back to LA and was hanging out in the club scene there, and went over to a friend's house and laid down the sample of the slide guitar, then just kind of started rapping to it. It got picked up by an independent label. They printed about 500 copies, and then it started getting a lot of radio play, and it blew up almost overnight. Like, this was, 93 or 94, right? 94.
Yeah. That
this was starting to happen. All of a sudden, Beck found himself being courted by these major record executives because of this song he kind of recorded on a lark. And then it got on MTV, and it became this kind of slacker anthem, this kind of like Gen X call to, just do nothing.
Do nothing.
And Beck was not pleased with that.
Oh.
I think he was impressed by pleased with the success, but there was one interview where I read, and I'm not going to repeat it word for word because this is a family podcast, but he said basically that, I've never slacked a day in my life. I was working, $4 an hour jobs, and I worked for this, I'm no slacker.
And he didn't want to be labeled as that.
It's a really, especially like in that sort of mid-90s alternative rock, if you want to call it that, and this kind of like alternative music scene is really growing. There's a lot of bands doing things that are understated or weird or dark, as opposed to coming out of the 80s with like kind of glamour and hair and metal and yeah,
bracelets.
Like, what you mean, like slap bracelets?
No.
But this song to me is just like one in like a sea of mid-90s. I mean, we're a little young for it at the time, but that sort of mid-90s slackery, young Gen X kind of feel. And the song is also just nonsense.
It is.
So it was really fun in high school to like learn all of the nonsense.
Huh.
I don't know. It's really poetic nonsense.
Addictive nonsense.
It is.
The funny part is
like
where
thinking of the termites choking on the splinters, and sorry, go ahead.
Well, the funny part that
yes,
I know that Allison listed in chronological order, but the reason why the funny part is that surprised that Loser is the one song that kind of is his big break. It wasn't mine for him. Like, it wasn't one of my favorites. It wasn't honestly any of the song. Like, I listed probably about 10 songs of just notes through each of the songs, and Loser's not one of them. It's not like it's one of my favorites or least favorites.
I think, because I see where you're coming from there. And I think it was really like, as Allie kind of said, it was really a song of the times. And it was one of those songs that kind of crystallized a lot of things coming together in the early 90s that kind of fit there. But standing by itself, like I'm with you. It's not my favorite Beck song. It's
iconic.
Yeah, it's iconic. It's his highest charting song. Like I said, he kind of pushed back against it a while. Like, he started kind of rebelling at like concerts and stuff. Instead of playing like, his music, he would do like these like blues, jazz, Miles Davis riffs, and like just start changing the words and kind of
to mess with people.
Yeah.
I would say it's almost kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, analogous to Creep by Radiohead.
Yes,
right? Like,
very much.
It's a song that like became really popular, that like everybody was into, and the artists themselves is kind of like, like, I don't really want to play this, because Beck is one of those artists like Radiohead, like David Bowie, like a lot of the other artists that we have talked about, who's constantly reinventing, right? And exploring genres, not just trying to get out pop hits.
One of his quotes from a recent interview where they were going back and looking at it, they asked him if, where he was, and his comment was, I'm always in the middle of my own continuum. Yeah, listen, Beck's weird, okay?
Oh, I've seen the cover of his album.
Yeah, you just have to watch the music video to Sexx Laws to realize that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, he's very much like not out to set hits. He's out to, as cliched as it sounds, he's out to make the music that he wants to make.
Yeah, he's wanting to make what he wants to make. He's not ready to, he doesn't want to please the people.
Right.
He doesn't even care if the people like it. He likes it, so that's all he cares.
Well,
I wouldn't say,
like it.
Yeah.
I think that liking something is a short-term goal for an artist, right? It should make you think. You should have to think about whether or not you like something if it's art. Otherwise, it's just pop. I don't know.
Yeah.
That might be right.
I'm with that.
Rachel, do you have more questions before we kind of progress?
So, Decker, I have a more personal question for you. Does your wife like this music?
She does not.
Okay.
My wife and I, the Venn diagram of songs I like and music she likes has a very tiny sliver in the middle.
I want to know where that sliver is and that you guys to like co-host an episode.
Well, you've already done one of them, so.
That's funny.
Oh,
that sounds
okay.
a lot like
Fair enough.
me and my husband.
Let's talk Odelay.
Let's talk Odelay. So Odelay, Beck went back into studio after Mellow Gold and after Loser, and determined to prove he is not a one-hit wonder, because that was kind of some of the buzz that was coming out after him, that he was a phony and this kind of one-hit wonder. And so he got together with these guys, the Dust Brothers, which were producers of the Beastie Boys. They put together this record, a lot of samples that we talked about. It actually started out as being kind of more of an acoustic, and then Beck didn't really like it, so he kind of threw the whole album out and kind of started from scratch, and that's where we got
Okay, so wait.
This album is double platinum.
No way, you're joking.
Has sold over 2 million copies.
Okay, so
this album is really, really important.
At the beginning of the week, hey, you may or may not want to let your daughter listen to it, and she's now 8 years old.
I forgot.
She's asking lots of questions and actually, getting into stuff, and so I kind of forgot that Allison said it, and then also I just said, whatever.
And then she's like, "Mom, what's a cocaine nose job?"
Yeah.
I don't think I was playing the song Where It's At.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Mom, can you stop playing this song?" And then I'm like, "I'm not allowed to skip it. I have to listen to it." She's like, "I think you're allowed to skip it. It's right there on the iPhone. Let me show you." And she's in that I know all these techie things, Mom, kind of thing.
Okay, Rachel. So I want to teach you about technology you missed. They're called earphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question is the Devil's Haircut. Okay, at the end of that song, what in the world is that sound? I want to let you know that is awful.
Oh, in the Where It's At in the chorus, that kind of
no Devil's
mechanical. I'm not sure which part you're talking about.
Yeah.
At the very end.
Well, where he's like screaming, "Got a devil's haircut in my mind."
Him screaming. Oh, I thought that was some kind of instrument. I'm like,
with like an electronic filter or something. But
yeah. I thought the song you would hate the most was Derelict.
I did too.
Actually, I was kind of neutral on it, because at first I did not like it, and then I liked a little bit, and then by the end of the week, I was like, dude, I'm actually memorizing some of these lyrics and singing along.
I don't know if you had any trouble with understanding any of the lyrics.
Yes. There was times where
because
I could tell him as an artist, he didn't want it plainly laid out for any of his listeners to really understand what's going on. And so part of it is like, I don't think maybe he even understood.
He later admitted in an interview with Rolling Stone, I think it was, that a a lot of those vocals, some of those vocals were what they call scratch vocals, basically placeholders. Yeah.
So to keep the melody and the rhythm for the song you're creating, and you're like, oh, I'll change these lyrics later. Paul McCartney did the same thing with Yesterday. It was scrambled eggs, oh baby, how I love your legs, or something, for like, until he came up with the lyrics for that.
Yeah.
But Beck just kept it in.
Yeah. So, so I guess they just felt that like Love Machines on the Sympathy Crutches, as they just kept playing it over and over, they just liked the way the words sound. So they kept
Interesting. That's a very...
I'm so not a lyric person that I didn't even realize that it was nonsense. The fact that you just said, say it again, Love Machine, what?
Love Machines on the Sympathy Crutches, discount orgies on dropout buses.
Yeah. So in my head, it's like, like everything to me is just like, it's just this, it's not even words.
We were just getting ready to talk about Sexx Laws.
That is my favorite song. Well, okay. It was definitely my favorite song in like 2001.
Yeah. I like it. It's a really fun song. And, a little bit, kind of very different than Odelay.
Yeah.
More of a funky inspiration, a lot of Prince inspiration on that album.
Rachel, what was your thought about Sexx Laws?
I really like the beat, and I like the trumpets. I thought that was cool.
Trumpets,
so did he play those trumpets?
Good question. So Beck actually plays a lot of the instruments on his album. He did not play the trumpets.
Really? Who played the trumpets on that song?
They were played by somebody else. A guy named John Birdsong, according to the internet.
What an incredible name.
I know, right?
A horn player.
But yeah, no, Beck does do a lot of, he plays keyboards, he plays piano, guitars, lots of drums. He plays a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
Midnight Vultures, the album, did very well. It was certified gold. Did not do as well as Odelay.
I'm surprised. I like this one better than Odelay.
I mean, that's a totally Rachel to be expected.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely went out and bought that album when it came out.
Oh.
I enjoyed it a lot. I liked the upbeat, good feeling of that song on that album.
Yeah.
We won't have time to talk about every album. So, Decker, what are the other like biggest hits, or the songs that you like are just like, how have you never heard that song before? I feel like E-Pro is one.
E-Pros is one. E-Pro is it debuted at number 2.
Rachel just made a face.
The album Wero, sorry, debuted at number 2. E-Pro was a big hit. That's a good one. Of the albums I want to talk about though is the precursor or predecessor to Wero, and that's Sea Change. So that was
one that you really like.
That's one that I really like, and that is one that's very different. The songs Guess I'm Doing Fine and Lost Cause.
Oh, yeah. I like Lost Cause. That was probably one of my favorites.
Why?
What did you like about it?
I not only liked the lyrics, but I liked the beat, and I liked how he delivered the song.
The way when you say how he delivered the song, are you saying that you like the tone of it?
Well, like for an example, Turn Away, I didn't like how I would rather hear just the instruments and not any of him singing and how he delivered it.
Okay.
But for Lost Cause and Seventh Heaven, those were two of my favorites. And I liked how the lyrics, how he delivered. I liked how the beat and everything.
I'm still trying to figure this out after five seasons. Are you saying that you like the arrangement, like the balance of the instruments against each other? Like it feels like harmonious to you?
Yeah, I think I like it.
I think you just mean you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
So, the arrangement, a couple things that I would say. This is probably Beck's like most critically acclaimed album.
Oh.
I think. It didn't win. It's, you know, again, didn't do not quite the commercial success that Doodle was, but critics really loved it. It very sad story behind it.
Oh, I don't like sad stories.
It was written after his fiance, his girlfriend of like 9 years, after they broke up, after she cheated on him. So there's a lot of emotion in that album.
9 years. Wow.
Yeah. And so that, the music of it is also very different. The arrangement, a lot of string arrangements. Those string arrangements were done by his father.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because you mentioned Turn Away.
Uh-huh.
And, so Turn Away is from, the album Morning Phase. And when Morning Phase came out in 2014, it was kind of pitched as like a companion album almost to Sea Change. Like stylistically, they're very similar. He brought a lot of the same artists back. I think his father came back and did the string arrangements on Morning Phase. This album was big, like critically. So this won 3 Grammys.
Wow.
And this won Album of the Year that year.
Wow.
I think you just shocked her a little bit.
Well, I think the more you say all these like Grammys, Album of the Year, I'm like, how have I not heard this group or band member or no guy?
Musician.
Because one of the things that I was like thinking in my mind this past week, would I have heard him like in a restaurant or while shopping, like that background music? Where would I have heard him before?
Well, you could definitely hear those like the more popular songs around. Yeah. You'd probably have to be at a pretty cool, like, I don't think you'd hear it at the grocery store, maybe Trader Joe's, but I don't think anywhere else, because what we were talking about content wise with explicit lyrics, those just don't play in restaurants in the background, right? Because most of the places that you're talking about where you would just randomly hear it isn't a place where they would necessarily play that. But that doesn't mean that it's not out there, right? Yeah. And I was reading, doing my own little thing, that he did a lot of compilation work with other artists and contributed to the Scott Pilgrim versus the World soundtrack. He scored that movie. Wow.
He also did a remix of the composer Philip Glass's work.
Oh.
He's done a lot of experimental stuff beyond just the kind of commercial music. He issued a songbook, essentially. Like, he did an entire album of sheet music and lyrics and didn't record it, but published it for people to kind of record themselves. Yeah, so he's done a lot of stuff. He's collaborated with a lot of artists. Probably
Rachel won't know who any of they are. Who they are either.
Gaga is.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
So he co-wrote, or he wrote one of the songs on the album Joanne, Dancing in Circles.
So I guess one way to say this, Rachel, is a couple weeks ago you were asking for like cool music, and Beck is cool.
Beck is cool.
Beck is cool. This is what cool music is.
This is what cool music is. Cool.
Well, I mean, this is like popular cool music. I'm sure there's like really cool music out there that I don't know about.
The coolest music none of us have heard of.
So I'm sure we could talk about Beck's history and his impact and his importance for another hour. But before we go on, Rachel, and we hear about what you thought, do you have any other questions for me or Decker about this artist?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm kind of feeling with Beck is that he's in the 90s. He's from the 90s, still popular today. Has that a little bit of grunge to him?
Not grunge.
Not grunge.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Is he going to be like that Nirvana guy that's no longer here?
Are you asking if he's going to kill himself?
No. Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He's very much still alive.
Okay.
Yeah. The last song on your
I'm
playlist
sorry.
was released in 2019, so he's still alive. And
I thought you were literally asking about his mental health, and I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I could tell with some of his songs, he's got some good, cool beats, and it was making me smile. But I don't know. Some of the stuff from the 90s can be a little confusing.
no one can be happy all the time.
Yeah.
We need a song for every mood.
Yes.
I'm
Okay,
happy a lot of times.
Okay. What were some of the other questions that you had?
Decker, why do you like Beck?
For me, like, one of the things that really draws me to Beck is that you cannot define him.
No, you can't.
He really, like, it really pushes the boundaries of music and what genre is. One album can be this like noise rock sample, rap samples, and then the next album, or a couple albums later is like a traditional folk album. And I mean, it's just very, like, he's just like he's a true artist. And I mean, it's just like some of his stuff is just freaking fun to listen to.
That's fun.
It's funny you said.
What about you?
Yeah, for me, it's just the way I feel when I listen to it. For the oldest songs, there's like a nostalgia piece, right? Of listening to Loser and Where It's At with my friends in high school, cranked up all the way to 11 in the car, driving around. But now it's literally just the way that I feel, and depending on how I want to feel. I listened to this playlist all week and felt 1,000 different things while I listened to it, and so, and not necessarily lyrically, just like a connection with the story, not necessarily that he's trying to tell, the story that I create in my mind, right? Listening to it and the connections that I make between the song that I'm listening to in my own life. I like those connections, and I think that his music has the kind of staying power that I could still be listening to these songs 10, 20 years later and have depth to those feelings. And yeah, I know it's really vague and feely. It's not very scientific and number of Grammys and blah, 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 but
no, I completely agree. And I think that's like one of the hallmarks of his like lyrical style is that, and just the way he arranges like his music in general is that you can really project onto it, what you are, your own view.
So, but really nobody cares what Decker thinks
no,
about Beck.
Absolutely not.
They want to know what you think.
Yeah. So I won't lie, there's parts of Beck that I did not like.
Right.
And parts that I wanted to skip. So it's kind of hard to give a real high positive. But also there was stuff that I did like. So I would say...
Wait, on a scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
1 being lost cause, you're liking Beck as a lost cause, and 10 being you think you're in love. What would you say?
You ready?
Yeah.
6?
Wow.
Whoa. Okay. Wait. Whoa.
What?
Really?
Yeah. I really
you liked Beck more than you disliked him. Because that's what that number would imply.
By 1 point.
Because I'm thinking by 1 point I liked it because...
And that's not I don't want to hurt.
No.
My feelings cannot be hurt.
No, it's merely because, and this is, you ready for this?
Yes.
It's because of the trumpets in Sexx Laws. And the funny part is, you didn't know who they were, who played the trumpets, and I'm like, man, I like these trumpets in this song. This is cool. All right, so maybe I will like Beck. But then there were some songs I really didn't like, and I'm sorry, I just didn't like.
It's okay. You don't have to justify your
likes
or dislikes.
It was the trumpets.
So just to, I really feel like this is like a logarithmic scale because she gave the Beatles like a 7.5. And so you're saying like that Beck is only 1.5 below, and it's like, or the Richter scale. Like there must be some sort of like, this is mind boggling to me.
Well, Allie,
Dolly Parton got like a 9.
How Rachel rolls, okay?
if the Beatles had the trumpet virtuoso John Birdsong playing with them, maybe.
I know.
Maybe.
Whoever played on Penny Lane really screwed it up. Okay, well, Decker, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and the 90s, okay? And then also 2019, and he is still alive.
He is still alive.
So I just want to point out that, you know, you're getting old when you think the 90s was 20 years ago, and it's like straight up 30 years ago. So
30.
Yeah, so 30 years of music, Rachel, for you to go discover. Start with Midnight Vultures and have a good time.
Will do.
Thank you so much, Decker. And Rachel, glad that you had a positive experience with Beck. Audience, if you would like to follow along with Rachel's musical journey, you can follow us on Spotify by searching for Spotify:/user:/music she missed. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. And you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks so much. Have a great week.
Bye.
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 La, la, la.